Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're about to commence with our joint Planning, Housing, Economic Development, and Education and Culture Committee meeting. Our topic today will be a discussion of the FY22 operating budget and the FY21 through 26 CIP amendments. We're going to start off with our recreation school-based programs. And so, Ms. Yao, I want to thank you for creating a great packet that outlines some of the things. I know that PHED is coming in, as the chair said, hot from talking about some of these issues that certainly blend together, but certainly want to thank our partners who are on the call with us today, our director of the Department of Recreation, Robin Riley, as well as the Division Chief of Programs, Adrian Clutter, for the Recreation Department, Tracy Anderson, Division Chief with Business Operations for the Recreation Department, Melanie Sassi, who is the Division Chief for Recreation Facilities and Aquatics, Charlotte Keys, the Administrative Specialist with the Recreation Department, Anita Arieti, who is our Senior Fiscal and Policy Analyst for the Office of Management and Budget, Necessity McGuire, who's the Associate Superintendent of Operations for Montgomery County Public Schools, and Kara Lesser, CEO of Kid Museum. We have certainly packed cadre of folks that are here with us today to really talk about something that's incredibly important. And we know that many of our children, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, have been denied. And a lot of that is school-based programs and also out-of-school time, to where we can give our children opportunities to socially connect with others, as well as build their physical regimen when it comes to just keeping healthy. And we know how important this is. We've heard from our parents who continue to talk about the challenges that their students are facing, not being connected, both from a mental level and a physical level. We've heard it from our parents of those who play sports, who are on different various sports teams. We've heard it from community members who are leaders in the community. I think about Joe Hooks and Montgomery Village and the 480 Club. And just talking about how important this is to our kids. I mean, we hear about this so often on so many levels, and we know just how important it is. And so I really want to thank all of my colleagues, as well as all the folks who are on this call, who continue each and every day to think about ways that we can try and get our children back safely, to make sure that we're prioritizing those opportunities whenever available, because it is incredibly important to our recovery efforts and also the mental health and physical health and well-being of our kids. So with that being said, let me turn it over to Vivian to walk us through the packet. But first, let me turn to my co-chair, Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. Glad to be here. This is the coolest joint committee at the council. I love everything we ever talk about. It's like, I think we'll all agree. This is a sweet spot for all of us, and it's fun. I just wanted to share with you some of the conversation that we had at PHED, and the new health order that we adopted on Tuesday has enabled a paradigm shift about the summer, as I think we were all hoping it would. And for obvious reasons, with anyone making a decision a couple months ago about what the summer might look like would make a different decision today about what the summer might look like. And so what we found in our PHED discussion was that we need our partners to be at the table ASAP in a planning effort to plan a surge of programming for the summer, because we all feel like we're on track for at least the outdoor restrictions will be removed, and so they can now plan for a different summer than they had expected to be able to plan for. And in fact, in the budget recommendation that we received for rec, there are savings attributable to rec facilities not being able to operate summer camps, or having some of those facilities closed. So now that it's clear that we can operate those, or that it's far more likely we will operate them than that we won't, there's real urgency in asking rec and MCPS and the nonprofit partners to outline a surge plan, while recognizing that, as you've said, there are huge issues about how MCPS will allocate its funding, and that we need some clarity on. But generally speaking, we're feeling like we've got to strike while this iron is hot, because if we don't put out some clear markers and some clear funding availability, then our nonprofit partners, especially, who could be more flexible about using space, operate out of a church more easily, operate out of, a school, a private school, or who knows, whatever, parks, that those organizations won't be able to ramp up in time for the summer and provide us with a summer surge of programs for the kids. So I think that's sort of the broad goal, is finding out what do we need to do to make a summer surge possible, and asking our partners to, come to the table, figure that out, make some recommendations to us. We talked about, for example, adding funding in a rec programs budget that was not necessarily the school-based programs, because it could be more community-based, but adding several $1 million potentially, but wanted to hear how that would match with school-based programming. And I know you've got plans that we are eager to hear about and talk through. So I think that probably summarizes what our committee discussion was, but if I missed anything, I know we can bring that forward.
So saying that, we actually have Councilmember Jawanda next. Councilmember Jawanda.
Thank you, Councilmember Rice and Reamer. And I always say this is my favorite committee because it is both of my committees. And this is one of my favorite issues. It's one of the things that I think we all care about, to Councilmember Reamer's point. And just to add on to that, agree 100% with what he said. We got into it. I think just to crystallize a couple points, we said we need to know what MCPS is going to do with their expanded funding for expanded summer programming, both educational and, wraparound services. We need to understand what RecCan is doing, because we, for example, they talked about these programs where there's summer school in the morning and then they're coming in at 1 o'clock from 1 to 5 to fill out at about 8 programs. Okay, how much more of those could you do? What could you do if you had additional space, and what space constraints do you have? What about the equity hubs? Where are they going to be, and how do they factor in? Our private and nonprofit providers. And so we just need to get a sense of that in this budget cycle in the next several weeks, as Councilmember Reamer suggested, so that we can make some strategic investments and ramp things up at a time when we know our kids need it. But we don't want to do it in a vacuum. And this joint committee is the appropriate place, because you have to understand all of those items. So just wanted to say, I know all of my colleagues, having spoken to all of you about this individually and collectively, that we all understand the need. And I think just to frame it for our colleagues at MCPS and others, that's really what we need to act on, among other things, so we can have a sense of that picture, the space issues, what's currently happening, and then what would funding go to, considering the loosening restrictions. So just wanted to say that, and excited about engaging in the conversation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very important topic. I absolutely agree. I was not watching PHED, but I absolutely agree that what we need here is a quick sort of survey or census of everything that we're able to put in place, and then what is the gap, because the holistic approach is one that we have, we actually have been talking about this all throughout the pandemic, right? So this is not new. We've talked about the need to look at this from a structural perspective in a holistic way. We have responded with funding, for example, for the equity hubs, as you mentioned, but we also have EVB. We have, a host of programs. And I think this is a very prime opportunity to do what we always talked about, to make sure that we are leveraging everything we have, that we're identifying those gaps, and then we are creative and innovative in how to respond. It is not unlike the early care and education approach, where we need to be looking at very different spaces, figuring out what might be some of those challenges. And then also, we know where, especially a lot of the need has been unmet, we do know where those places are. So how can we creatively partner with, additional folks? We have examples like the Gator Club in Wheaton, for example. It's in an apartment building, right? So what's going on? And then in addition to that, we should connect with our service delivery hubs, because they're not just providing food and providing testing and everything like that, but they are really getting in real time a snapshot of what the needs are, and they've got these sort of like, outreach connections to these families, again, in real time. So I'm excited about that. I know it's a little bit of work, but I think that if folks come together with HHS, with REC, with MCPS, and then with the community partners, then we can make, we can respond again in a holistic way, not in a sort of piecemeal fashion where, we say, okay, we need to put this money with the equity hubs, or we need to do this other thing, we need to do this other, but we're not looking at it holistically. So I absolutely endorse the conversations that I'm hearing we're had at PHED, but also what we can do here in this joint committee to get that done and get it done quickly, especially with the ARPA funds. I think we have a real opportunity. A lot has been said about the loss of learning. And I'm hearing a lot of people who before never heard from really worried about the Black and brown students, which is great. But we've got to address all of that, and we have to do it very quickly. So thank you for allowing me to make those remarks. As I said before, I apologize in advance. I do have to leave at 12:15, but I'm very excited about this approach and look forward to working with all of you to get it going. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Navarro, and I know that we can just count on you as a yes for whatever it is that we do moving forward. So that's very clear. Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments that have been made. I really appreciate the fact that we're continuing what was a really robust conversation this morning at PHED, that we couldn't help ourselves and yet kept saying this is something we're going to talk about later today, later this morning, and then kept talking because we feel so strongly about it. A couple things that I'll note. One, we're all concerned about the COVID slide or whatever terminology we want to use. We recognize the fact that a lot of learning and development for children happens beyond the classroom. Some of that is with the school system. Some of that is in partnership and separate from the school system. But even virtual school, the elimination of all these additional programs that have happened during COVID has really denied so many students access to enrichment opportunities and the development that they desperately need. And so we need to double down on this and really create the surges Chair Reamer has called it that is required. I do think that this is an appropriate way to purpose federal funding, as was just noted, and thinking about how we can intentionally do that. We do need to make sure that we have the facilities that are necessary to do it and work with MCPS. I think that we really need a major leadership on this to really focus on it. We're getting close to the summer, and we need to make sure that we have these programs set up. And to Councilmember Navarro's point about partnerships, we talked about that a little bit as well. Community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, the hubs. During COVID, we did a lot of things well. We learned a lot from the things we didn't do so well, but one of the great things that has come out of it is how organizations have stepped up to create collaborative approaches, partnering with county government, or frankly, just providing services that are traditionally provided by county government. We need that type of effort now to respond to the aftermath of the crisis, like we had in the midst of the crisis when it came to food security and other essential services, to make sure that our young people are getting the type of enrichment opportunities that they desperately need now more than ever. These are always important, this conversation, but I think it's probably more important now in this context than it ever has been, at least since I've been on the council. And so I appreciate the fact that we're having it, that we're discussing it. I know all of us in the entire council is totally committed to working with the rec department, with MCPS, with all of our outside partners to make sure that we can get these programs up and running into the levels that are needed. We need more of them, not fewer of them. And so we have to figure out how we fill the gaps. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you very much. And so certainly as we turn to Ms. Yao and then turn to our partners, you guys find yourselves in a really good place, because you have folks saying, yes, yes, and let's do more, and let's do this. So it's nothing but support. So I'm sure that must be a great feeling. Because I know that each and every one of you that are here are dedicated to the work and making sure that we provide those opportunities for our kids. So with that, Let me turn to Ms. Yao to go ahead and get us started.
So the Joint Committee will be discussing Recreation fiscal year 22 operating budget recommendations that involve school-based programming and educational programming delivered by the department. At the beginning of the packet, it sets forth the recommended budgets for these school-based programs: EBB Middle School, EBB Elementary School, Rec Extra, and Rec Zone. There's an update on youth development programming during the COVID pandemic at circles 17 through 18 of your packet. And we have representatives from Recreation here in case any of the council members have any questions related to that programming. And if not, we can go into the one budget adjustment that's related in this area is a reduction of $330,000. That's for phased reopening of EBB and Rec Extra sites that opened in fiscal year 20, but were paused due to the COVID pandemic. These were added again in the fiscal year 20 budget. They were started. There was supposed to be staff from Recreation that were going to be hired to operate these programs, and the department launched them using existing staff. But because of a hiring freeze, the specialists that were slated to be hired were not. And because of these limitations, as well as the COVID pandemic, the executive recommended a savings of $651,767, which the council approved during fiscal year 21. But the department anticipates that it will take some time to get all the different programs up and running. And so they've recommended a savings of $330,000 for these programs that were not fully implemented during fiscal year 20. Council staff highlights in the packet, and again, the PHED committee discussed this quite thoroughly during the PHED committee meeting, but there are a number of capacity related issues for the department that limit some of their youth development programming. That includes they have a vacancies list that they've been carrying for some time, and that prevents them fully supporting programs. So in addition to the vacancy list, they have telework accommodations for staff, and this is something that we heard is happening across county government. But again, front-facing staff that normally implement programming directly have for health reasons, they're high risk of getting, or their families are getting complications from COVID. They've been allowed to telework, and that impacts again the department's ability to deliver programming. In addition, we've understood that there's just challenges right now in getting seasonal staff up and delivering services. The department has been doing a lot around COVID, support services, and now they're needing to pivot to actually start, delivering other programs for youth. But they've kind of, how do I say this? They're behind the 8 ball in terms of timing because of, the other things that the department has been charged with doing. So these challenges are concerns that the PHED committee had expressed, and part of the thought was that we needed to hear from Recreation about to what extent these things could be overcome, or what level of programming they can do moving forward, particularly in the summer. So with this adjustment, if it's not surmountable that they can get these programs up immediately, then council staff would recommend taking that reduction. But in addition to that, later on in the packet, there's an opportunity to discuss summer programming more fully and the department's capacity more fully, and MCPS's plans and their, for just programming as well as funding.
So thank you for that, Ms. Yao. Let me turn to Ms. Riley, and then I want to turn to Ms. McGuire as well to kind of just give us thoughts as to you've heard from all of my colleagues on the Joint Committee about the commitment and the want to continue to see expansion. I know that you're looking at it as well. So from that perspective, what do you think you might be able to accomplish? Because I know that the Joint Committee stands ready, and I don't want to speak for them, but it was clear with their opening statements, stands ready to support enhancements and expansion to the best of your abilities. I will just note, before we begin with both entities, that I know that, especially in our restaurant industry, Councilmember Faridson knows this all too well, that we're having challenges of bringing folks back because, unfortunately, unemployment still remains at a level in which it is more economically advantageous for folks to remain on unemployment than it is to return back to work. And so our restaurants and other entities that are in the service industry are experiencing tremendous challenges with trying to get folks back. I'm curious as to whether or not REC is seeing that same sort of challenge within county government. And then realistically, what and how much can we expand based on some of the hiring challenges that may be there? Is there a way to get past some of that, to use different kinds of practices, work with Worksession Montgomery, who's on for our next discussion in terms of siphoning folks who are looking for employment as well. So, there could be some unique partnerships there. So with that, let me turn it over to Director Riley and then to Ms. McGuire.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here. For us, our staff have been, since last March, pretty much detailed to other work. So they have done everything from elections to food access to vaccine testing, HHS warehouse, the list goes on and on. So we are just starting to pull them back to rec work and programming work. They will be back fully by next Friday. And they are starting to make those calls to our existing complement of seasonal temps that we rely on so heavily to deliver our services. We're a relatively small department with 142 employees, if fully staffed. Yet we have, 34 buildings to manage and operate and run senior programming and fitness centers and everything else. So it becomes complicated for us. We are just starting to make the calls to our seasonal temps. We have many that are coming back. Some of our camps are actually fully staffed. Others have large gaps, much to what you've said, that either unemployment is attractive and they'd rather stay there in that comfortable place, or they're just not comfortable coming back at this point. So we have a hiring campaign going on now to bring in new college students, high school students, trying to recruit, getting new folks back in. We do have some vacancies that we, even though there was a hiring freeze in place, as we had critical infrastructure needs, we did ask for exemptions and we're able to fill some of those. As we are starting to bring back services, we can certainly make those requests to fill those positions. In youth development, I think we have 5. Which will be critical. So some of this savings, the 330, is based on a delay in being able to hire 5 staff to bring them back to help with extra EBB, rec zone. Our existing staff have been kind of filling the gap in some of our existing programs now. So I think it will be a challenge. I think if we could fill those 5 vacancies pretty quickly, I think we would be able to turn those around by fall. In terms of camps in the last PHED session, we want to regroup this session, obviously, with our staff and sort of talk through things. We limited our camps based on the spaces that we had available. We did not have access to public schools, which is generally where our wheelhouse is for camps. We have 65 camps at school. So we're at like 17 camps now. Using rec centers, and not all of our rec centers are available to us. We have homeless shelters, we have vaccines, other things going on. We've been working with community partners, faith-based groups. We've been working with Park and Planning Commission. Montgomery Parks has been a good partner to offer us space to do outdoor and park building camps. with the new information yesterday, we'll be able to add some capacity. And as we add space, we could certainly increase our capacities. We just have to find those buildings and those houses and be able to do that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I tried.
No, you definitely did. And so let me be a little bit more direct because you generally answered it. So let me ask it this way.
Sure.
If the joint committee were to reinstate the money that was projected by the county executive in terms of that reduction, that budget adjustment, would you be able to utilize that in helping either via the summer or in preparation for the fall to continue to expand opportunities for serving kids in our community?
This 330 is specifically for EBB in the fall and Rec Extra in the fall. Provided we could fill our 5 vacant positions in youth development over the next 4 or 5 months, yes, we could launch EBB in the fall at those schools.
And then if there were, because all the time, and I don't want to jump ahead of where my colleagues may be in terms of the second part of all of these discussions, we continuously as a council have been committed to growing the number of EBB and Rec Extra sites continuously. I know that remains a conversation that we have. It also gives us flexibility when it comes to looking at potential other sites that have been identified by both school system and recreation department in terms of standing some of those up as well, would it not?
I mean, given the resources, sure. Our staff feel very passionate about, reaching kids and taking care of young people. So that's what we do. And sure, we could do that.
Absolutely. I always ask the tough questions, Director Riley, because I love you. And so, and make sure that that's there. Let me turn to Ms. McGuire to lay out some of the school systems plans. Again, you've heard us being able to make our opening remarks in terms of what we hope and expect to see. So give us a little bit of an understanding about what the school system's vision is, and then also specifically when it comes to EBB and Rec Extra.
So thank you. And I'll start with that before and after EBB Rec Extra model that we are starting with here. Certainly, we have already begun to work with Recreation around reopening those sites to the extent possible and phasing that in the current school year. And certainly, as we look ahead to next year, we hopefully anticipate, if I can put it that way, as much of a return to some of our typical processes and practices as possible. So we fully expect to be able to have the, again in the fall, have the school before and after care space open in a more traditional and typical way, again, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So we would certainly support, and we very much appreciate the services and partnership with the recreation programs. And so we would certainly support that being available in the schools more broadly in the fall, and we'd be very happy to work with that. Again, our current expectation is that we would not, again, we hope we would not expect any more restrictions that would come back to that. And again, in this spring, we are working through reopening sites where possible and have had a couple of possibilities there. So in terms of the summer, do you want me to jump to summer also, or we'll hold on that?
Well, let's hold right there for a second, because I think then we have a decision point before the joint committee, which is that you've heard from both the school system and the recreation department that support and think that it works in terms of not only standing up existing, but also giving us the potential for expansion should those opportunities be identified. And so I'll just turn it over to my colleagues if anyone has any comments or wants to make a motion regarding that decision point. I'll go to Chair Reamer first.
Thank you. Appreciate your guidance here. And I do think we should add some more sites. We should continue our steady march. We've been on a multi-year expansion plan to add EBB, and we need to keep that going. So, and now more than ever. So I would propose we add funding for 2 schools, and frankly, I don't know if we could do more, but 2 is what there seems to be some consensus around. So I put that forward for my colleagues, and again, I think, a broad objective here, as we've discussed, is sort of a summer surge. This is more of the fall, and, getting back to providing these core programs.
Colleagues, other, Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you. Can you elaborate on the why two? Is that just because realistically that's what seems to be possible?
You'd like to propose 4 or 5? I'll bite.
No, I mean, I just think that, part of, and again, I'm trying to also be mindful of the conversations that we've had time and time again about our fiscal situation, but we do know that we're going to be receiving some ARPA funding. We do know that the school system is also going to be receiving some funding. And we have spoken time and time again about the fact that, I mean, at least I am very concerned about the post-COVID-19 situation, right? We really don't know the extent, the depth of the issues that we are going to face when our students come into the building, when things begin to reopen. There has been, I think, devastation in ways that we have not yet appreciated. And I feel like we need to be proactive in having the infrastructure in place and augmented and enhanced infrastructure. So when the students come back in, when the families come back in, we're not scrambling to try to address the need, but we're ready for it. So I mean, I would like to hear from sort of, the experts here in terms of what is sort of realistic, but what is there a way that we can push the needle on this? Because again, I think we're going to have to pay, we either pay now or we're going to pay a lot more later when we're trying to figure out how to quickly address this. And so I guess, interested in understanding again, if you can tell me what the cost will be, but what would realistically be, a nice sort of investment? And have you identified some of the schools, given the sort of student load issues around, farms and mobility, ESOL, et cetera? Have you identified those schools that are prime to begin to, that could really benefit from that?
Well, let me just make a few brief, if I could.
Well,
okay.
Chairman, let's let Director Riley and Ms. McGuire, because I think that you and Councilmember Navarro are saying the exact same thing. So, Chair, Director Riley, let's hear from you in terms of, and then Ms. McGuire, and then I'll turn to you, Chair Reamer.
Sure. I don't know that we're fully prepared to answer the question, but in terms of the costs. But I mean, we worked for years since the launch of EBB many, many years ago to really develop, and Adrienne, I think, is on the call, to really develop a matrix to know which schools and sort of the scoring and how we would add them based on Title I and those things. And we have that work. And so we can certainly work with Essie and her team to make sure we collaborate to make sure we're getting to the right kids and the right communities. And we certainly could do that. I mean, we have the tools in place to do that. So it would be not too much of a reach for us to bring it back to you pretty quickly.
Ms. McGuire?
I agree. I think we can certainly identify schools and certainly in our work, both with recreation and community use, I think we all do have some different metrics to indicate the schools that with gaps in services. I think if in terms of the question around funding, I do, while it's true that the school system is certainly receiving, and we're grateful to be receiving some federal funds, we are significantly increasing our summer programming as well as our tutoring programming, and the board has waived fees to encourage access across the board and to reduce any barriers. So I just put that as context for that there are allocations there that we are attentive to in terms of trying to put those dollars forward.
Wonderful. And I mean, has there been a possibility that you could then sort of connect all of this, right? So that you can leverage whatever it is that the board has already decided it's going to enhance and augment. And if we were to identify some funds, could that also just assist the school system in, greatly expanding that reach? Is that a possibility? Because the idea here is to leverage as much funding as possible, right? Is that a possibility, Ms. McGuire?
And so I want to be careful. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding the question. I think I was trying to portray that our federal funding, we feel that we have allocated to those purposes in terms of leveraging, in terms of partnering with services and partnering as providers, absolutely. Maybe I'm not understanding if there's a question about whether we would have funding to support something different.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that, I mean, I am cognizant that the school system is receiving quite a bit of funding. I know, you know, county government will also receive some funding. Obviously, we've got to spread that throughout. So I'm looking at how we could best leverage whatever the funding the school system is getting, so that if we were to add some capacity, some funding of our own, let's say through the reconciliation list or something like that, will you be able to leverage what you have already, you know, determined you're going to do? Would you be able to somehow leverage that? You know, are there going to be components that you have already committed to that you can say, yeah, maybe we can add some of these components to this new EBB site, or we can, you know, perhaps align some of those additional services with some of the things that are happening in this particular school. I assume they're going to be pretty much the same schools, because, you know, if we're going to talk about the, you know, the needs, et cetera. Is that something that you guys would be willing to also look at? Because I'm trying to make sure that we're leveraging the resources versus just creating new things, right?
So we absolutely want to coordinate as closely as possible with our recreation partners in these sites and bring the services that are needed to the kids where they are, when they are there. And so I feel confident that we would commit to that partnership. I sort of would like to take this back to some of my more program colleagues who are deeper into the programming aspects of that. But I think I'm hearing that we share a common goal.
Rafa, my daughter's dog, agrees. All right, so I would be open to putting, you know, additional sites on our rec list if possible. And then see what we can, you know, achieve. But I am worried about this issue of, you know, we got to be ready. Absolutely. So, you know, I would be willing to support more than two, I guess.
Excellent. So let me turn to the chair, to the chair of the PHED committee, and then I've got Councilmember Friedson and Councilmember Duando. I will want to jump in after Councilmember Reamer just to kind of lay out what I've heard so far and what I think we can dispense of in terms of a direction, and then we'll go from there. Chair Reamer.
Thank you. You know, I think really we're now at the kind of full context dialogue here. So first of all, I think we ought to add 2 more schools as part of our, you know, annual effort to incrementally expand EBB. And if we could add more, I think that would be great. And I would certainly support that. But you know, that would be one point. What we talked about at PHED was asking the joint committee, or sharing to the joint committee, is the product of our dialogue is asking the partners to sit down at the table and devise a summer surge, you know, continuing through the fall strategy for out of school time programming, and coming back to us in time to be able to allocate funding as needed in this current fiscal year's budget, worrying that if we don't provide that directive, then it'll be summer when we find the results of that and we won't be able to implement programming. We talked about potentially setting aside several $1 million for providers, either nonprofit or for-profit, to, you know, provide camps and other you know, potentially non-school based, or, you know, like, there's no point in trying to draw a distinction here, but we thought that we ought to make a lot of funding available for the provider community to expand their programs this summer. And so, you know, with that, I think broadly support anything that we can do that's feasible. We need MCPS to share, you know, when they have, as they are working their way through, what they think they'll be funding versus what gaps they would be, and presumably funding some of these community organizations to provide services could be a gap, but, you know, we're not totally sure yet. And you know, but I guess, you know, very broadly, seeking a summer surge carry through the fall and wanting to know what is needed, and absolutely believing that, you know, we should be talking large numbers here. You've outlined the equity hubs, and our need to be 100% behind them. We should make several $1 million available for our community partners to enhance their programming this summer, now that it's clear what they can do, or clearer what they can do. So I guess that would be my broad comment.
Yeah, so let me just say that, and thank you for really summarizing what I think we've heard so far. So I don't have to do it. So that's great. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Because what I heard was that we support moving forward, because I want to make sure that we're getting all of the salient points of the packet. So we are supporting the 330 because we've heard from Ms. Riley that should they have that money, they would be able to try and make sure that we're prepared for the fall, as we heard from Councilmember Navarro. But in addition to that, what we are asking for the school system and recreation department is to come back to us with the information about what it is. And we will have kind of a placeholder at this point. And I don't know if we really need to have a monetary placeholder. So, millions of dollars, we know it's going to cost money, but I mean, there's no sense in putting a dollar until we get information from the school system and recreation. And it seems like we're all in support. And this is 5 members of the council who are here. So let me just be clear about that as well. So from that perspective, I think that it's very clear that what we want to do is have them give us an expansion plan. And maybe then we can come back to this once we have that info, and then actually put that number into place on the reconciliation list. So before, Vivian, I see your hand up. Before we come to you in terms of laying all of that out, I just wanted to put that out there. Let me turn to my colleagues first, and then we'll go to you to kind of give us the structure. So Councilmember Jawando first, then Councilmember, I think I have that right. Councilmember Friedson, then Councilmember Jawando, sorry.
Either way is fine, thank you. Excuse me. First of all, thanks. I appreciate this conversation and the direction that we're heading in. I just wanted to note a couple things. I think that the conversation with the school system and rec is resources and leveraging of them, as Councilmember Navarro very effectively discussed, but it's also facilities. And the conversation that we had previously was some of the challenges with availability of facilities to be able to actually ramp up in the summer and heading into the fall. And so I would just, strongly encourage that be a central part of the conversation. We need to leverage current funding dollars, federal and base budget money, and then, resources in terms of the facilities, because we need the space to house the programs, to provide the type of programming that we're all talking about. So hopefully that will be part of that conversation, and you'll be able to come back to us and do all of the things that Councilmember Navarro was mentioning in that conversation that you're going to come back to us with. I did also want to make a point about the ARPA funding versus the base budget. I would just throw out there personally, I think it would be most appropriate and effective for us if the EBB funding, the 330,000, and any enhancements, 2 schools, 4 schools, whatever the number ends up being after you come back to us, that should be base budget funding. And the reason why it should be base budget funding is if it's ARPA funding, first of all, it would set the expectation that it's discretionary next year, that we are not going to fund it next year, would have to come up with new funding for it next year. To me, what I'm hearing is the goal here is to continue what we have done for many years, which is to gradually build and grow the Excel Beyond the Bell and our broader after-school programs. And so I think that we need to include that in the base budget, and we're going to have to make the sacrifices and find the resources and make offsetting cuts if necessary in order to make that happen. In terms of the ARPA funding, I think the summer surge is the area that funding should be targeted. As we talk about ramping up summer programs, we can add capacity to summer programs. We can do a lot of creative things, and then we can decide, what works, what doesn't work, what is needed in a year coming out of COVID, et cetera, next year. But I wouldn't want to include, personally, I wouldn't want to include EBB as part of the ARPA funding, or at least I'd be a little concerned about that, because it would mean that we would have to go backwards next year in the base budget and not make the progress that we were trying to do. So I just put that out there and note that I think we should leverage those ARPA funds. I think the summer surge heading into fall and any additional and supplemental efforts that we can do would be great. And I would support whatever capacity you're able to fill. I think we ought to discuss whether or not we can find the resources to fund it. I wouldn't want to appropriate money that can't be put to good use. But if it can be put to good use, then this is such an important focus for all of us, particularly at this point in time, that I think we ought to come back together and find it. And I'll lastly say, as the chair was noting a minute ago, I've learned not so quickly, but eventually in my short time at the council, that get a joint committee recommendation, because if you can get a unanimous joint committee recommendation, you're in pretty solid shape. I'll yield back.
Amen to that, Councilmember Friedson. My late chief of staff always told me, Craig, all you have to do is be able to count to 5. This job isn't that complicated. Councilmember Jawando. Thank you.
Yep, and this is a 5-member committee, right? So we're good to go. I will just I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. I appreciate Councilmember Friedson's point. I do agree that it should be base budget funding, and we've talked about this for years. I know prior to me coming on the council, but I know I say it every time. We need to have a plan to ramp up all the places we know we need these supports. And so it wouldn't make sense to use it as one-time funding and put us in a horrible situation next year where we're trying to scramble and figure it out. I do think the summer money is appropriate in this instance because of the pandemic for ARPA. We also need more robust summer programming just in general, though, but I do think given the extraordinary circumstances, it's appropriate in this instance while we work to build out more going forward. To Ms. McGuire's point, I think it's critical to know to hear back from you when you go back with your colleagues. I think I heard you say that you want to do this. Of what do you have planned? How much is it? Where it's going to be, really, and in coordination with this whole group and our private sector partners, our nonprofits and our community-based organizations and our for-profit entities that are serving our kids in the summer. We need a full plan, and we need to know how we need to fit in our budget process and what the money that was sent directly to you, what you're going to use it for. And so almost an extraordinary amount of coordination, probably more than has ever been done. And so if you could just comment on yes, I'll do that, we will do that, because I know you all are already talking and working on some things, but I think we need to know for our budget process, we need to have a sense of that so that we know exactly outside of the EBB expansion here, what else we need to fund. And so is that your understanding? And you can, go ahead.
So I'd be happy to share an overview. I'm sorry, I think I had stopped on the EBB question, and so I don't know if you want me to.
Yeah, well, whenever it's appropriate to. I don't want to. We can dispose of this, but I just want to say that while I have the mic, and whenever it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, or to the chairs, I think it would be good to hear from Ms. McGuire about that point. So if it's now or later, we can. I'm fine either way.
So yes, I would like to hear from Ms. McGuire, but let me just, again, based on what I'm hearing, I want to separate this into 3 buckets, if you will. The first bucket is the 330, and it seems very clear that folks are saying that, yes, we want to make sure that we're supporting rec, working with ramping up for the fall to make sure we're prepared for that fall program. And if it can happen sooner, then I know that they'll implement it and be able to utilize it. So that's one bucket. The other bucket is dealing with EBB expansion. And certainly from that perspective, we'll find out how many we can do. That ties into what Ms. McGuire and what you just talked about, Councilmember Jawando, is something, and what Councilmember Reamer and Councilmember Navarro and Councilmember Friedson all talked about in terms of EBB expansion, which we've always committed to, and how many more we can get into, whether it's 2, whether it's 3, whether it's 4, based on all of the limitations that are there, both in terms of funding as well as space requirements, as Councilmember Friedson laid out. And then when it comes to the other part of this, which is other additional programming outside of EBB that would involve community partners, things like that, there's also that piece of it as well that we need to take a look at and get an understanding of what that part is. So there's 3 different buckets that we're talking about here. One, it seems as though, and so I want to dispense of that one. So just without objection, with restoring the 330,000 to the reconciliation list, seeing nodding heads and no one objecting to that, that part is dispensed of in terms of bucket. The second 2 buckets will require more additional information. And so with that, let me turn to Ms. McGuire to respond to Councilmember Jawando's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly, thank you. And I think in terms of MCPS space during the year, I think there are fairly well-established processes for that space being provided under a number of different circumstances. And we do, again, as I was saying, anticipate that we would have much more openness in terms of that out of school time programming during the year next year than certainly we have this year to date as we transition into a more open status. And again, with this year being able to open some of those after school programs more as we finish out this year. In terms of the summer, when it comes to the summer programming, we have been working very closely with recreation as well as community use of public facilities to try to put together the jigsaw puzzle that we're talking about in terms of what time and space will be available. And we have been making good progress on that. As I think folks are aware, the school system has been getting much closer to being able to put out our summer programming, which, as I've said, we certainly anticipate having a much broader and more extensive summer programming offering across all levels, across all schools, across both academic and also some more enrichment, movement, additional kinds of programming for different levels. So that programming, we again have been working to identify the time blocks and the space blocks that programming will need. Along with that, we've been working to identify with recreation what are opportunities perhaps to provide complementary programming that would go with that, either before or after, sort of wraparound kind of models, as well as what blocks of space and time do we anticipate being just open in our facilities for recreation and for our other private community partners to access. So we have, again, been working to identify those blocks, and I think we will be able to shortly. So we certainly anticipate that there will be space and time available. Again, given the changing and nature of our summer programming in response to the factors that you all have been discussing here today, we needed to start there. And unfortunately, our time frame has just been a little elongated on that. But again, we do anticipate there being some space availability in the schools. And we very much appreciate the partnership with Recreation to talk with us about providing that complementary wraparound feature, which I think will really help facilitate access for a large number of families. And in addition, of course, following some of our more traditional community use access points is also important for our private providers that we know come to rely on that as well. So I hope that helps clarify a little bit. Again, in terms of our funding that I mentioned, a great deal of our federal funding is going to support the summer programming, as I've mentioned. And we also are allocating a lot of federal dollars to a tutoring support effort, both in the summer and through the school year. Okay. So certainly, again, in the school year.
Do you have numbers on that you can share?
I'm going to have to bring that back. I apologize for that. In terms of the numbers, I will have to bring that back to you. But again, that is a very significant portion of the federal dollars we've received for those purposes will be going to those efforts. In terms of space in the fall, again, those efforts on behalf of the school system, I think, have less of a space impact than some of the other programming that we're talking about.
Okay, that's helpful. I just think getting that back is part of the piece of the pie we need to figure out so that we know what we need to do with rec. It's great to hear that there's space, because I know that's always an issue with everything we want to do. So Director Riley and her team, I'm sure, will, in addition to what they're doing, and follow up with you on that. And then we do need to figure out, because the goal here is we want to get to a number. How many kids are you serving? What's the delta? what do we need to do with our community-based, faith-based, and private partners to supplement that? Because we know there will be a gap. And so I just think the better sense we can get of that over the next, couple of weeks, so that we can allocate the funding in both sources, both in government and out of government. That's what we're trying to get to. And it just bears restating, because I think it's a monumental task, but I think it can be done. So, okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Jawando. And so, again, it seems very clear to me that the commitment is there. We are all on board, but we will need that additional info. I'm going to turn to Ms. Yao, but let me just say that there will be an update for my Education and Culture Committee members, and for anyone else, obviously, that wants to attend our great meetings, that there will be an update shortly. I just met with council staff yesterday to talk about setting up an opportunity for us to discuss ARPA funding for both Montgomery College as well as MCPS, where some of the money is going, what those and what our anticipations are for how that helps to stand up existing programs, new programs, et cetera. So to your point, Councilmember Jawando, we're actually going to be evaluating that very shortly as a committee. So just wanted to lay that out for you. Now, I want to turn to Ms. Yao, then I've got Chair Reamer. Ms. Yao.
So I just want to clarify that the council president set forth, a process for identifying funding and what it will be used, what category it falls into. So what I'm hearing is for the recreation EBB programs, the committee would recommend that they would identify them as critical expenditures that should be considered for funding in the 22 base budget for the department. And that as we are collecting information in terms of the capacity to stand up programs and, both within the department and outside the department, that funding would be considered one-time funding that would be eligible for ARPA funding. But again, we will bring this back to the joint committee before the committee's discussions are over, so that the committee can then comment or make any kind of revisions. That's Ms. Yao. You've elicited nodding from my colleagues, so that is perfect. And did want to acknowledge great leadership and great partners like Kid Museum. So Cara, thank you very much for what it is that you do, because certainly we understand how important it is to expand the opportunities and horizons of our children. And we know that Kid Museum is committed to that. We want to see so much more in terms of exactly what it is that your organization does for all of our kids. We know that you can only serve so much in your space and within your capacity, but this is something that we want for all of our children all across this county. And so certainly from that perspective, the more that we can do to help stand up services like yours is incredibly important. And so that's across the board in terms of what my colleagues have espoused. Councilmember Navarro continues to talk about how we need to get our fingers into all those pockets in our community and make sure that we're touching all of our kids. And so that's one of the things that's incredibly important. I know that you and your organization are committed to that. Let me turn to Chair Reamer.
Well, I wanted to continue on that same point, that as we proceed in the next several weeks to come up with a surge plan, we want the providers to be at the table and making sure that we're not limiting ourselves to what do we think we can do within our own agencies, but we're thinking expansively about what providers can do if there's funding available. So I just want to express that, as I know that was your intent, and that's why Cara is here today as a representative from the sector. Just for that, for our agencies and departments, that we should be thinking about what we can do with our own internal capacity, and then how our partners and providers can also have their capacity expanded. Thanks.
Absolutely. And so that's what we'll address when we come back to address both the expansion of EBB as well as outside of schools with our community-based partners and figure out what that strategy is going to be moving forward, understanding that our school system plays a key role in that in terms of providing some of the facilities, but also some of our other county facilities as well. So Ms. Yao, in terms of just incorporating DGS and others into this conversation, as we have deemed this as a priority for us moving forward, we need to be creative in looking at all of our space opportunities that are there. So with that being said, and I don't see anyone else with any other comments, thank you to all of you. Keep up the great work and continue to keep us posted. We are looking forward to revisiting this issue with a little bit more information and how we can continue to help support your efforts. So thank you very much. All right, so we're going to move on to our next item, which is WorkSource Montgomery. And let me start off by saying that, oh, how amazing it is that in a time of turmoil, in the midst of a global pandemic, that one of the entities, one of our partners in county government, has actually been able to turn the tide tremendously around in terms of what our concern, our passion for change, some of our frustration has all turned into a great sense of pride and happiness and joy around what it is that we're seeing in the direction of WorkSource Montgomery. And so to you, Mr. Featherstone, I just really want to thank you for your great work. You certainly have hit the ground running, and I will only speak for myself and let my colleagues, of course, speak for themselves as well. But from my interaction with you and your agency, you have always been incredibly responsive and have immediately jumped in to making some of the changes that we have been recommending for years and have already seen some of the results come to fruition. That, sir, is so important as we try and fight through the global challenges that we see that created a true economic recession, but also have created turmoil when it comes to folks being able to be gainfully employed. And, you know, the changes that you've made internally when it comes to how you're structured, how you work in partnership with the council have all just been welcome and appreciated. And so I just want to thank you, sir, for all of your great support. I want to acknowledge Judy Jablow, who also works with WorkSource Montgomery, and thank her for her leadership and support of you. Judy is no stranger to the council, and so could give you all of the information to help guide you to avoid the pitfalls and keep you on the straight and narrow, which is incredibly important. And then we have Jerome Fletcher from the Office of the County Executive, one of our CAOs, and really want to thank you, Mr. Fletcher, for continuing to work with Mr. Smith as well as WorkSource Montgomery in getting us to a much better place. I know that I gave you a very hard time for a long time. And I told you that just as I give a hard time to folks when there are challenges that we're experiencing, I also make sure that I give kudos when things are firing on all cylinders. And really want to thank you for your support of WorkSource Montgomery, for helping us to get to a much better place in terms of really advancing the needs of our community when it comes to gainful employment. And then Ms. Coffin-Salem, who's with our Office of Management and Budget, thank you for being here as well. I want to turn it over to my chair, co-chair, to see if he has any opening comments, and then go directly into the discussions with Mr. Smith, who's been an incredible analyst all the way throughout. Mr. Co-Chair.
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I concur with your comments. I think the work that you've done in helping us lead through this conversation, thank you to Mr. Chair and Mr. Jawando. And I think we have turned the ship in a different direction, and we've got a team now that's far more focused and executing on a plan. And Ms. Navarro and Mr. Friedson. I mean, I think it's been a council, you know, a matter of great urgency to the council, and we've put a good framework in place. So I'll just say that and turn it back to you. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Mr. Smith, I know we have two salient items for discussion, and we might be able to get through it right before Councilmember Navarro has to leave. So I'm going to turn it over to you, sir, to walk us through those items.
Very good. And I recall Ms. Navarro said she was going to be leaving about 12:15. So I quickly defer if she has anything she wishes to say before she needs to leave, and then I can go through the packet real quick.
I appreciate it. Mr. Smith. I want to echo the comments of the co-chairs. I think that we have definitely turned the page. That's super exciting. And obviously right on time, because, you know, we have a lot of work to do, especially for this post-COVID-19 recovery. Unfortunately, I do have to leave. The only comment that I will make is that similarly to the last item, it is my hope that we do get back to this conversation of youth employment. We did have that robust joint session where we discussed the OLO report, and we all committed ourselves to working on a robust effort. We look at our neighbors in Prince George's County and what they invest in their summer youth program, and then we look at what we're doing, and obviously we have got to do a lot more. Again, I think this particular issue of youth employment plays a significant role in all of the conversations that we've had about how do we best, respond to the needs of our community. We know that many of the conversations around even, the robust SRO conversation and what we need to do for our students in the school buildings, all of that is connected. And this piece of youth employment, time and time again, we've heard our young people say, you know what, I just really need a job. I need a job, or I need to, better my skills. I need to enhance my skills. And I honestly think that we can't drop the ball on this. We have to definitely, just like the last conversation, perhaps direct folks to quickly, see what else we can do to augment Summarize and also other opportunities, because it is really critical. So I appreciate the opportunity to register that, but just say, Mr. Featherstone and Ms. Jablow, I'm not surprised, since Ms. Jablow has been involved in a lot of this transition, that things are doing, going real well. And Mr. Fletcher, just appreciate all the work that has been put into place to get us to this point. And with that, I got to go. So I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. And I just want to register as the chair for this, that you are in support of the additional funding moving forward for both Worksession Montgomery, NDA for Summarize, as well as the American Job Center. You're in support of that. So I am in support.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Mr. Smith, let me turn to you to go ahead and walk us through, and we can take it from there.
Very good. I will be brief, because I believe we also have a hard stop at 12:30 because of a press conference. And so I'll just note the highlights and then leave the time for the committees to talk with Mr. Featherstone and Worksession Montgomery. So the executive's recommendation for fiscal 22 is $1,445,594 for the county's support of Worksession Montgomery. That includes a $180,000 enhancement for the Summer Rise program. And as noted later, that's specifically for student stipends, that for students who register and enroll in that program for this year. The rest of the funding is general support for Worksession Montgomery's efforts. As noted in the report, and as Mr. Featherstone can talk about later, the organization also receives substantial support through federal aid for the WIOA implementation. And so the county support is not the only funding that supports Worksession Montgomery. And then the highlights specifically for this is that Worksession Montgomery, as noted, is going to continue to begin assuming the roles for the American Job Centers. Previously, that was through a third-party contract. That's for the adult delivery services. As also noted, the job centers have been closed during the pandemic, and we hope they will be reopened soon, but that does not mean WorkSource has been resting on its laurels. They have been working virtually with anyone that they can who has been looking for jobs through those virtual services. But again, we hope that the centers will open soon, and that WorkSource will be working with our state and federal and local partners to ensure that under and unemployed individuals are be able to access jobs. The other item that is noted besides Summer Rise is obviously our Department of Corrections Job Center. Also, as noted, WorkSource and Department of Corrections continue to work together, but that center has also been closed due to the pandemic, and we're hoping that the inside the correction facility job center will open again soon once that as the pandemic subsides and more folks are vaccinated. But that does not mean WorkSource hasn't been working diligently outside of the center to provide handoff support, as well as working in hiring individuals who know how to work with individuals coming out of the correction facility in order to be able to access jobs, and also find employers that are looking for individuals with that kind of background. So I will stop there, and council staff ultimately recommends support of the executive's budget for this. And as with all these items, we can return to anything the committee wants to, or the committees want to, later in the summer or fall.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. I'm going to turn to my colleagues, and then I'll have some closing remarks. But Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, and I appreciate both the chairs and the comments of Councilmember Navarro as well. I too, kind of having I feel like a proud parent moment here, and I feel really happy to see that we're heading in the right direction. obviously on Summer Rise, and really credit to Councilmember Rice. It was great to work together and implement that program when I wasn't on the council. And I'm really glad we're going to be able to pick it up in a robust way. And I did my quick math. If you keep the stipends at $300, which I don't know what you're doing, but that's what it used to be. And okay, I see, Gene, that's 600 students, which would be up in the right direction. We need to get even higher, but I like that we're heading in the right direction. And I'm really happy to hear that you're going to be taking in-house the work of the Job Center. And so we need to have more discussion about both these topics. Obviously, the youth employment kind of whole network in the county, Summer Rise being a component of work-based learning opportunities and getting kids on those paths. But we need to have that discussion. And then we also need to talk about taking it in-house. That's a big endeavor, moving away from that contractor model. So I think there's a lot we need to talk about. Both those functions so critical to an equitable recovery. So I appreciate if we could, Mr. Chairman, that in the co-chairs sometime in the summer come back to these items, because there's a lot there. Certainly, I'm supportive of the funding and of the general direction. And I just want to thank Mr. Featherstone and Ms. Jablow and the whole team, Mr. Fletcher, for getting us here, getting us where we are today. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just say that I think that's incredibly important. As we look to COVID recovery, there are going to be a number of meetings that I know the council president has already said that we want to undertake when it comes to COVID recovery. This is one of them, where we talk specifically about recovery of our workforce in general, and especially when it comes to our youth tied to our OLO report. So Mr. Smith, definitely, if we could schedule something like that, that would be terrific. I am remiss, and so I apologize. It should have actually gone to CAO Fletcher and then to Mr. Featherstone for any comments you have. So, Mr. Fletcher, let me turn to you, and then to Mr. Featherstone for any comments, and then I'll turn back to my colleagues.
Good afternoon, Mr. Councilman Rice. Thank you for your kind words earlier. What I will say is that we are also grateful that Mr. Featherstone is on board, his staff. They weathered a big storm, getting him through the door, getting him onboarded and up to speed on the many things that, he was charged when he first came in the door. And I'm not going to lie, it was a heavy lift. And I think we all know the details of that. But he took all of it on, and he's done a great job. And we're very proud of the work he's done. And we enjoy working with him and can't wait to see the results of the future.
Well, thank you very much, CAO Fletcher. Mr. Featherstone, and remind us again of how long you've been on the job.
So it has been a whole 3 months at this point.
Thank you. I just wanted to put that out there as a
Those are
point. Go ahead,
COVID,
Ms.
so they're
Featherstone.
like dog years.
Yes, indeed, and time flies when you're having fun. But greetings to the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about Worksource Montgomery's plans and budget for FY22. I think in the interest of time, I would like to just kind of jump ahead to the path forward for 22. There's much to accomplish. I think a lot of good things happened in 21. We absolutely have some areas of improvement, but we will look to continue to build upon the momentum of FY21 as we continue to develop our ecosystem for the residents and businesses of Montgomery County. As such, I'm happy to inform the committee of some of our initiatives for the upcoming year. For starters, as Mr. Smith mentioned, Worksource Montgomery is in the process of restructuring and will assume responsibility as the service provider for our adult and dislocated worker programs. Also, as we currently have an open solicitation for innovative youth models, we expect to also enhance our youth programs in FY22 as well. As we monitor state and local guidance and are planning to reopen our American Job Centers, we will implement a new quality service model focusing on standards of excellence for customer service. We'll deploy a new virtual career center platform. We'll implement a new Building Trades Green pre-apprenticeship program that will be offered in partnership with Montgomery College. Residents will be offered the opportunity to participate in the second and hopefully third iteration of the Bio Bootcamp. We'll support Summer Rise 2021 as a host site. We'll provide participation stipends, and we'll also facilitate professional development workshops. I'm happy to report that we'll kick off our mobile unit community impact program in January 22, which will increase access and awareness for our services. We'll develop and deploy a countywide workforce development asset map accompanied by a mobile application. And in partnership with the United Way, our American Job Center will become a financial empowerment center. And to increase employer participation in our American Job Centers and to better coordinate services for our business community, we're increasing our business services team, implementing a new customer relationship management database, and deploying a sector-based approach. And last but not least, we're actively engaged with the DOCR in mapping the relaunch of our county's reentry program at some point, hopefully soon in FY22. So in closing, WorkSource Montgomery will continuously evaluate and solicit feedback on the effectiveness of our programs. Our commitment to continuous quality improvement will ensure a standard of excellence from WorkSource Montgomery, a standard deserved by every patron of our workforce development system. Thank you all, and I look forward to continuing our work together.
Well, you stunned the heck out of me. Let me just say that's a lot for 3 months in terms of laying out and what it is that you're looking to do is incredibly important. Let me just say again, when I think about where DOCR was, and I represent Clarksburg, and so am intimately aware of what happens within a jail and what used to happen within a jail when it comes to that workforce development. There's so much more that we can be doing akin to what we used to do before. And so once we get around the corner of the pandemic, I know with the creative mind that you have in terms of what it is that we can continue to provide as opportunities for folks that are there, not just limited to the traditional trades that most folks assign to folks who are incarcerated, but understanding that if you want to create opportunities for folks to not make the same decisions that they made before that landed them in incarceration, and provide them with opportunities to them that were denied to them that landed them in incarceration. It really is one in which doing this robust kind of work can make societal shift differences in terms of what we see in terms of those people who are walking through those doors. So your work is incredibly important along those lines. And so I look forward to seeing all the great things. Your mobile access, that's phenomenal. I mean, it ties into what we talk about when it comes to COVID testing and COVID vaccinations. Bringing things to the community and being involved and embedded in the community is incredibly important. So thank you. It's very exciting. Let me turn to Chair Reamer and then Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, Ted. A quick question. Mr. Featherstone, good to see you. We had talked a bit about repurposing the unemployment insurance campaigns and potentially into funds into the bio boot camp or a new tech focused boot camp. Was that how you ended up doing it? Remind me where we are with that. So Gene, okay, Gene's raising his hand, but I'll turn.
I'll go ahead and fill this in for Mr. Featherstone. A draft resolution to repurpose that was sent, I believe, to your office, and we need to amend the current resolution to allow that purpose. And it's a pretty simple procedural fix.
Thank you. I guess it's better to hear that coming from you, Gene, than from Anthony. So. Okay, we'll make sure we get on that right away. But exciting programming, and we have an opportunity to add a little support for it. Thanks.
Councilmember Friedson.
Thanks. First of all, appreciate all of the work. Certainly 3 months, as I said, in COVID months, definitely like dog years. You're a grizzled veteran at the agency at this point. It seems, and certainly have hit the ground running. It seems like it's not even enough to describe what you've been able to do in such a short period of time. So I don't know what the next thing beyond hit the ground running would be, but I'll think of it and replace it with what I've said. But welcome and thank you, and appreciate your efforts to try to move things forward. I did just have a quick question, and it really relates actually to the repurposing of those funds. But a lot of the focus, understandably, has been on the American Job Center and some of these particular programs, which are central to the organization and to the county. But there's also a broader question of the talent pipeline and how we're moving existing workers up, not just bringing folks who aren't in jobs into jobs, but those who are in jobs and building their skills to meet the needs of our economy and to meet the needs of their families, really, to be able to grow their wages and their livelihoods. I just wanted to touch base on that. Any thoughts on on that, any work that you're doing with MCEDC or the executive branch or any other entities to focus on the kind of the skills building aspect of your work?
Sure, that's a great question, and we've had several conversations with our partners over at EDC about this, and are planning to add that level of services to our business consultant model. As a part of our virtual career center platform, we want to be able to offer our employer partners access to our learning management system for their incumbent workers. One of the pieces of feedback I received for the bio industry is that there's the technical skills are there, and that if we could step in and provide leadership and professional development for incumbent staff to move up, it would only create more opportunities for biotech boot camp participants to springboard into entry-level positions. So that is one of the offerings that we plan to be able to provide our employers or our business community, is the access to our learning management system for their team members that are on board. But it's something that we'll continue to need to have conversations about and develop strategies for, and I'm definitely open to hearing the committee's thoughts and working with you on this as well.
Appreciate it. I'd maybe suggest that we have a follow-up on that conversation with Montgomery College and universities at Shady Grove. I see a lot of nodding from the education chair, but obviously now is not the right time. We've run out of our time here anyway, but you've done triage on a lot of the concerns that council members have raised previously. I think we're ready to take the conversation kind of to the next level and expand out. It sounds like you're already doing work on that. I just love to hear more about that and see where we can take it. So I appreciate that, and we'll yield back, and thanks for all your work.
Well, thank you very much for that point, Councilmember Friedson. And I think that, again, when we talk about recovery is not just about the current, but also the future. And so we can tie those pieces in together with a more robust conversation around how we're going to structure this in the future of expanding those opportunities and making sure that we have those pathways that are solidified and then have the funding necessary, the resources necessary to make those things happen. I thought it was a great question. So it is 12:31. I really want to thank all of my colleagues. We are clear, Mr. Smith, without objection for the additional funding, and I see my nodding heads and no one objecting. So with that, we are approving the additional funds, and really want to thank you, Mr. Featherstone, Ms. Jablow, and thank you, CAO Fletcher, for all of your continued support and work and continuing to expand workforce opportunities for Montgomery County. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our joint council committee is adjourned.
For youth sports.
As all of you know, I know a thing or two